Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a topic you hear about constantly, a company's carbon footprint. We're going to demystify the jargon so you can understand what's really going on behind the scenes.
Seriously, think about it for a second. How does a massive, global company even start to calculate its carbon footprint? They've got factories, fleets of trucks, thousands of employees. Where do you even begin? Because that old saying is absolutely true. You just can't manage what you don't measure.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the big picture framework. Then we'll dive into each of the 3 scopes, and finally, we'll see how companies are actually supposed to tackle this huge task.
Okay, so to solve this giant measurement problem, a group of experts created a global standard called the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, or GHG Protocol. It's now the go-to accounting tool for this stuff. And its real genius was sorting all of a company's potential emissions into 3 pretty straightforward categories they call scopes. All right, let's get right into it with the first and honestly the easiest one to wrap your head around, Scope 1. These are the emissions a company makes directly. And to make this super simple, let's just imagine we're running a small pizza restaurant.
The keywords to remember here are controlled or owned. This is the stuff that's happening right there, on the company's property, that they are directly in charge of. You can think of it as the emissions coming from their own chimneys, their own boilers, and their own vehicles.
So for our pizza place, what does that actually look like? Well, it's the natural gas we're burning in our ovens to get that perfect crispy crust. It's the fuel in our company-owned delivery scooters as they zip around town. It's even those sneaky little fugitive emissions that might be leaking out of an old AC unit. Basically, if we're burning it or it's leaking on our property, that's Scope 1.
Okay, so that covers what a company owns. But what about the stuff it buys? Well, that brings us right to Scope 2. Because let's be real, most companies aren't running their own power plants. They're plugged into the grid just like the rest of us.
Now, the crucial thing here is that these emissions are indirect. They're physically happening somewhere else, like at a power plant down the road. But, and this is a big but, they're a direct result of that company's actions. The company flipped the switch, so it's responsible for the emissions it took to generate that power.
Back at our pizza shop, Scope 2 is basically our electricity bill. It's the power that keeps the lights on in the dining room, runs the cash register, and, very importantly, keeps the refrigerators humming so all our cheese, pepperoni, and sodas stay perfectly cold.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, direct emissions, purchased energy, we're done, right? Not even close. In fact, Scopes 1 and 2 are almost always just the tiny tip of a massive iceberg. The real story, the full impact of a company, is hidden in the huge and super complex world of Scope 3.
Scope 3 is, well, it's basically everything else. It covers every single emission a company is indirectly responsible for, all the way up and all the way down its entire value chain, from the raw materials they buy from suppliers to what you, the customer, do with their products. And yeah, this is where it gets really complicated, with big challenges like getting good data from suppliers or making sure 2 companies aren't counting the exact same emission. And if you need proof of just how big of a deal this is, get this. For the average company, their Scope 3 emissions, all that supply chain stuff, are a shocking 11.4 times higher than their direct Scope 1 and 2 emissions combined. Yeah, over 11 times. It's staggering. And believe me, this list just scratches the surface. The official GHG protocol actually breaks Scope 3 into 15 different categories. So back to our pizza place. Scope 3 is the emissions from the farms growing our tomatoes and the factories making our mozzarella. It's the trucks delivering all those ingredients. It's our employees driving to work. It's even the energy a customer uses to reheat a slice of pizza at home. And what happens to the pizza box when it's thrown away? It's the whole shebang. So if Scope 3 is this giant, complicated beast, how in the world does a company even start to tackle it? It can feel totally overwhelming, but the good news is there's a clear, standardized process. It's not about being perfect from day one, it's about starting the journey.
It really boils down to 3 core steps. First, a company has to figure out which of those 15 categories are actually relevant to its business. What are the big ones? Second, it uses the best information it can get to make a solid estimate of those emissions. And third, it commits to improving over time, getting better data, and expanding the analysis year after year.
And this is what that journey really looks like. A company can evolve from doing nothing at all, a state of no activity, all the way to an advanced state, where they're calculating and transparently sharing all of their major impacts. It's a progression, a journey of accountability.
And this right here is the crucial takeaway. It's a quote from the US EPA,
and it perfectly sums it up. Even though Scope 3 is the hardest part to measure, it's also where the biggest opportunities for real, meaningful change are hiding. Engaging with suppliers to help them cut emissions can have a much bigger impact than just changing the light bulbs in your own office.
So I'll leave you with this question to ponder. The next time you see a company talking about its carbon footprint, ask yourself, are they just showing you the tiny tip of the iceberg, their scopes 1 and 2, or are they giving you the full picture, including the massive impact of Scope 3? Now you've got the framework to find out.
If this explainer helped clear things up for you, please do us a solid and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We'll be back soon to break down more complex topics just like this. Thanks for watching.